In this video, let's talk about maybe creating a software product because you have the technical skills. So there are many different kinds of software you can create. You can create, as you know, business to consumer, business to business. First, let's touch a little bit on business to consumer. A couple of examples: Chrome extensions, or even WordPress plugins, or other kinds of plugins. They're typically very easy and small types of software to create. Maybe it's still challenging to create them, but comparatively to a enterprise level software, it's way simpler to create those, and those might be good places to try to promote. The main issue is that typically incumbents in these spaces, plugins and extensions that are already being widely used by people, it's very hard to compete with them, and you basically have to, there's not that many ways to promote them other than in the Chrome extension store or the WordPress plugin store, or the main place where you look for them. And if you're not coming up in search, if the incumbents are dominating search, it's really hard to get your extension off the ground, and so you might have to do a lot of other things. So the marketing might be a problem here, unless you come up with something novel. For example, just an example. I'm not saying you should do this, but just an example. Let's say Bitcoin is really popular now, and you go and you're one of the first people to make a Bitcoin extension where it literally shows you when to buy, when to sell, and whatever, right? So okay, but because it's Bitcoin related, you're not going to have as a competitive an environment for promotion. Whereas if you had maybe coupon related extension or plugin, then guess what? There's other plugins and extensions that have 10 years of marketing as an advantage, and so of course they're going to outcompete you. So if you can look at new and evolving, developing niches this year, next year, after that, see what's coming around the corner, and that's what you should jump on. And especially if you have a little bit of expertise in this area, so that you're not guessing what people might like. On the B2B side, larger software, it's harder to create, and the problem with software that's harder to create is that whole theory of Eric Ries and the lean startup kind of fall out the window. And what you really want to do is embrace the ideas that we covered from Steve Blank and customer development, and really talk to potential customers, because it's far harder to create. Usually, it's far harder to create software for businesses because they just have more requirements. The software is more bulky, and sales is a challenge because a lot of the sales is direct sales, and that's just nightmarish. For example, in one of my first projects that I created was I was working on search. This is circa 2008 or something like that. And I was trying to work on, better search. I was trying to use semantic web and natural language programming, just understanding how computers understand language and issues with that. And I was trying to sell this, maybe stupidly, I don't know, to companies to use for their internal search. Maybe not companies like Amazon or some of those, but companies that follow, that are not small but are big enough to need very robust search, but don't have the in-house expertise to build it. So that was my sort of target, and it was really hard to get those meetings. And obviously no salesperson partnered with me, so I literally had to go and book those meetings myself, have to drive, had to waste a whole day driving there, doing the meeting, driving back. Sometimes travel can be even more than just one day. So it's really not an easy thing to sell, and the conversations, they're not great. They're it's very hurry up and wait. Do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this? And then you're like, no, let me go build it. So you quickly go build it. They're like, well, I have to get approval. And then it takes them 2 months to get approval while you're sitting there in anxiety for 2 months, because you have to make your business get off the ground. So it was a very brutal sales experience for me. And it's also brutal to cold email, cold call, generate leads. There's ways to make them easier, but they're never that easy, or they're never free. If it's easy, they have to pay some freelancers, and it's a nightmare. And the sales cycles take forever, 3 to 9 months sometimes to sell to a company. Depending what you're selling, it can sometimes be shorter, but yeah, it's not easy. So sales are brutal, and again, you have to really talk to the people working at these B2B at these businesses first, and really get a consensus that yes, there's a tremendous need for something, and if you build it, they will use it. And I almost don't build anything before that, because you're just going to waste so much of your effort, and who knows if you're going to ever be able to sell it. And that's exactly what killed my early business, where I tried to create business to business software. That just didn't work.